Welcome back to the West Georgia Gridiron Podcast. I am your host, Mason Taylor, and as always, I am joined by my father, Mark Taylor, and this is week 8 of our warm-up.
Again, everybody. Mason, I think that high school football is about several things. It's individual effort, it's perseverance, teamwork. Some people would say discipline, character development, of course, and then focusing on the whole season journey instead of, or maybe just as much as achieving the outcome. But I think there's some quotes that I hope that some of the players that listen in, some of the coaches that listen in from week to week will find inspiring. Bo Schimbelcher says, "Those who stay will be champions. Set your goals high and don't stop until you get there." That's Bo Jackson. The difference between a successful person and others is not a lack of knowledge, but rather in a lack of will. Of course, the great Vince Lombardi. You fail all the time, but you aren't a failure until you start blaming someone else. That's Bum Phillips, the legendary coach of the Houston Oilers, which I used to watch growing up. Football is an incredible game. Sometimes it's so incredible, it's unbelievable. Tom Landry, the legendary coach of the Super Bowl champions Dallas Cowboys, who was inducted into the National Sports Hall of Fame with my uncle and your uncle, Leslie, who is one of the winningest high school basketball coaches ever in American history. And I think still has number 7 on that list. But I hope that will be inspiring. And there's more to the game, Mason, on and off the field, right?
Right.
And all those things we listed are certainly a part of it. So I think if you have that as a player, you have that as a team, that's the ones we see make it all the way. But we're in week 8, everybody, of the warm-up. And we always take this time on Thursdays to look ahead at the games coming up on Fridays. And what's ahead in this show, though, is Fan Zone special guest interview. We want to remind you of a game of the week, and then Mason's matchups where we look at his predictions and previews. And, of course, we just want to remind you that right now out for podcast listening or watching is a special guest interview with Cam Wood, the senior star running back with the Carrollton Trojans. This was a great interview. For those who haven't heard it, a lot of people are sharing this, and we thank every one of you for tuning in and checking it out, but then also sharing it, commenting, that great thing. And so even to the Carrollton Trojans themselves, football team, for sharing that. Our Fan Zone, Mason, what do you think about this score? 100-0. This is from our buddy Vlad over in Alabama, Bama Preps, who did the special edition show with us here recently. I've never seen a score like this.
Yeah, me neither. And honestly, that's just, I don't know. Williamson must really hate Murphy to put up 100 points on him. Murphy's obviously not very good, but Williamson, they must really have something against Murphy because, I mean, there are teams, there are teams even around here, like Carrollton Central, any teams around here that could probably put up 100 points against a team, but you kind of choose not to just out of respect for the coach or the team, or, you're not really trying to do that. You're just trying to get your experience.
Lithia Springs.
Yeah, but clearly they kept their starters in all game, and they were really trying to prove a point, and I don't know, maybe Murphy was talking smack. I don't know, but that's embarrassing.
100-0,
That's
man.
extremely embarrassing.
It is extremely embarrassing. All right, so from Bremen High School Band, though, we were at the Bremen model game. We talked about that recently. That was kind of a blowout as well. But this is their halftime show for the Bremen Band. They did this big TV, which was pretty cool, and their theme was the history of television. They were able, I think it was like Friends. You see a banner there, the old Friends show in the 90s, which was very popular, early 2000s. So, man, this was a cool halftime show. And then Bowden School Chorus. This is the game that was canceled last Friday night because of the rain delay and the storms.
And look at the sky. I mean, it does not look like it's going to rain.
No, there was no indication there was a storm coming in, but it came in heavy and hot, man, immediately. But yeah, they were singing the national anthem. I want to say it's the middle school chorus. I could be wrong.
They look like elementary school.
Maybe it was a mixture. maybe it's high school in the back. I
They
have
look
no
like
idea.
babies.
But they did a great job. So shout out to the Bowden School Chorus, and hope to hear that again. And then GBP Sports Games of the Week coming up on October 3rd, this Friday, 7:30. Watching it on GBP TV. Buford, Collins Hill. What do you think about this one? You like this one?
I don't want to see either of these games.
Come on, Mason. But if you
look,
did they get it right? What?
Collins Hill,
Buford and Collins Hill?
Okay,
That's
Buford-
always one to anticipate.
Collins Hill's not even a top 15 team in 6A.
They have changed.
Buford would smack them around. I don't know if they're going to blow them out, but Buford's going to win that game.
But they got that
Cass
cool
is not
Eagles
a top,
helmet.
Cass is not a top. I don't know if they're top 15, but they're not a top 10 team in 4A. So
Mm.
Cartersville's going to win that game most likely. I would have liked, honestly, for the GPB TV one, I would have liked to see Colquitt County Valdosta.
All right, so we addressed this last week.
Yeah. I have 3 games in mind that I would like to see.
If the GBP sports team would just please reach out to Mason, he could be could be your advisor on this, because he obviously has some. Again, we know you're not going to go on the road down south Georgia,
for some reason,
middle Georgia. We get it.
Look, for this, there's 3 games that I would have liked to see. I actually wrote them down because I figured this would have been on here. I would have liked to see the Valdosta at Colquitt County game.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. And then there's 2 1A Division I games that I would have liked to see. Toombs County goes on the road to Swainsboro. I would have liked to see that one. And then Thomasville, they go on the road to Worth County.
That's a good one.
I would have liked to see any of those 3 games. I don't want to see Buford Collins Hill because we all know how that's going to go. Collins Hill got beat the crap out of by Grayson. Why would we want to see them get beat the crap out of by Buford?
I've been to Thomasville. Great community. They love their football.
Yeah, and then, Cartersville Cass. I mean, Cartersville, we all know they're going to win that game. I mean, it's boring. Nobody wants to see this. I mean, they've been getting a lot of these games wrong, let's be honest.
Tell us how you really feel, Mason. All right, well, how about this game of the week? This is your game of the week. Mount Zion Eagles and Trion Bulldogs. Now, Trion's already been in the area. They've already played one of our teams, Temple.
Yep.
How'd that go?
Well, not too well for Trion, no.
All right, so how do you see this one?
Well, I don't want to give anything away too early since we are going to be talking about them later, but the reason I have this as the game of the week, and I know a lot of people are going to be questioning why I didn't choose Heard County Temple. I'm not too impressed with Temple these past 2 weeks. Something flipped. Something changed for Temple, and I don't know why. It's almost like you'd think their whole team or most of their starters got injured or something. But, they got blown out by Pepperell. They got blown out by Bremen. Not looking good for Temple, and they're taking on Heard County, who they're ranked top 10 in their class, so that's not looking good.
I thought you were going to say they're starting to look like the LSU Tigers.
Well, and then no, because LSU still, they didn't play very good, but they still almost beat Ole Miss. They were still in that game, and they did not play very good. So that's telling on LSU and Ole Miss's part, but that's neither here nor there. But Mount Zion Trion, really the reason I have this game, I think it's going to be the closest. I think it has the opportunity to be the closest game around here. And also there's extreme playoff implications. This is like one of the smallest regions around here, other than maybe Carrollton. I think that might be one of the smallest as well. Only 5 teams are in this region. That means only one of the teams is not going to make the playoffs. Obviously, Mount Zion just smoked Greenville 24-0. Last year, Greenville beat Mount Zion, which is the reason why Mount Zion didn't win or didn't get into the playoffs. So Mount Zion, they already have a 4 seed pretty much. If they beat Trion, they have a potential to be a 3 seed. And, you'll hear about it later, but I really don't think Trion's all that good this year. I think obviously they showed that against Temple. They're not what they were last year. If you know anything about Trion last year, they were really good. So this has extremely huge playoff implications. That's why it's my game of the week.
Well, we have a lot of games to get into. We go on the road for one of them. Mason, let's start with Bowden.
Actually, let's start with Villarica. We've been starting with Bowden the past few weeks. I want to start off with the team that has the hardest opponent this week, the Villarica Wildcats. They have to go on the road to take on the number 6 Rome Wolves of 5A, and this is a region matchup. Currently, Villarica is number 1 in their region because they're 3-0.
And you didn't think this was game of the week?
No. And the reason why is because I don't think it has the opportunity to be the closest. And even though it does have playoff implications, I don't think it has as big of playoff implications as Mount Zion does, just because of the size of their region. Villarica and them, I think they have like a 7 or 8 team region, which is a lot more chances. So,
fair enough.
But this is the 10th meeting between the Villarica Wildcats and the Rome Wolves. Obviously, Carrollton is the only other team around here that has played Rome this year. That saw Carrollton get the 28-21 victory, so a close game there. So even though Rome is probably not much better than Central, they're probably around that Central level, which we saw how Central did against Villarica. I mean, they still barely lost to Carrollton, so it's a little bit interesting. But this will be, again, the 10th meeting. Rome does lead this series 7-2 all time. Rome only won last year, though, 28-13, so it was only a 2-possession game last year. And to be honest with you, I think Rome last year was probably better than Rome this year. So I don't know. But Villarica, they have not beaten Rome since 2014. So it's been over 10 years. So they're trying to end that streak. And then Rome is ranked number 8 in 5A according to GPB Sports. I think they're number 6 according to Max Preps. So it obviously depends on who you ask. But one thing's for sure, they're top 10 in 5A, and Villarica has to go on the road to take on them. And again, Villarica's number 1 in their region right now because they're 3-0. I think Rome is number 3 because they've only played 2 region games. But both of these teams undefeated in region. Both of these teams on 3-game winning streaks, so it's going to be interesting. But we'll start off with Rome's keys to success. Number 1 is going to be start fast and set the tone early. Obviously, they didn't start. They started fast against Creekside earlier in the season. That saw them obviously lose, but they started out 21-0 against a very good Creekside team. So this Rome team really knows how to start fast, and I think if they do that against Villarica, I don't know. I think if Villarica's defense is doing that, they're going to have to obviously play catch-up, but can their offense play catch-up against that Rome defense? That's going to be the question. So you don't want it. I think Villarica is going to really want this to be a grinded-out type of game. Rome does not do good in those grinded-out games because they had a grinded-out game against Carrollton, and they did not win, even though they were at home. Quarterback Aiden McPherson, obviously he's got to get the ball in his 2 wide receivers' hands, the 3-star Darnell Collins and then Jeremy Winston, both those guys going to Georgia Tech. He's got to get those guys the ball, and obviously against Carrollton, he had little bubble screens or little hitch and goes that he loved to get them on, and especially Jeremy Winston, he loved to get them on deep routes. He actually got Carrollton on a deep route on that one, so they love to do that. And then the quarterback also loves to scramble. So I think if Villarica's defensive line can really pressure them, and they have the bodies to do it, Malachi Dunson, Kamari Humes, Tayshawn Thornton, those guys, even Luke Hale, those guys, if they can pressure that quarterback and really stop him from scrambling around, I think Villarica can be successful. But again, that Rome's going to need to get their stars the ball. They have 3-star offensive lineman Nasir Jones, who's 6'5", 300 pounds, so he's a big old boy. He's anchoring that line of Rome. They got to control both line of scrimmages. Rome's got to establish a strong running game. They have Justin Spivey, who actually used to go to Carrollton back in middle school. They also have Jeremy Ragland. Those 2 guys, they can definitely get it done, and they can be dangerous, but they can also be shut down. They got to disrupt Villarica's rhythm. Obviously, Dash Kennebrew is actually a pretty good edge defender. Jalen Montgomery also on that defense. So I think if they can pressure Matthew Eubanks and collapse the pocket, they will force him into hurried throws and scrambles. And I don't know if he's a quarterback that can necessarily handle that all game long. And I don't know if the Villarica offensive line can handle that defensive line, to be honest with you. We'll see how it goes. But it'll be interesting. And then lastly, they got to capitalize.
I can't have that in there, man. This sounds nasty.
Okay. Ready? And they got to capitalize on big play opportunities, and they also got to stay disciplined against the run. Villarica's definitely going to try and run in this game. I think they can. I think if they're successful, they're going to do it. So if Rome can stop that run, and if they can not let Matthew Eubanks get passes off to Max Garfield down the field like they did against Troup County or anything big. Obviously, I think it's just Rome. They just play like they did against Carrollton defensively, obviously not in the fourth quarter, but if they play like they did in that first half, they should be fine. Obviously, penalties had a big part of that game as well. I'm not going to get into that, but Villarica, their key success, number 1 is going to be keep away with ball control offense. Obviously, got to sustain drives. If Rome's defense is out there just getting you off the field and getting their offense on the field, it's going to be really hard for Villa Rica to do anything. They got to win in the trenches. Obviously, Villa Rica does have some size, so they can compete on the lines. So it's not a situation where Rome just has overwhelming size on either line. So Villa Rica does have the bodies to compete, but whether they can or not, that is the question. They got to limit explosive plays. Darnell Collins, who's, in my opinion, a better safety, but he's more of an athlete. He plays both ways. And then Jeremy Winston, obviously. Jeremy Winston was the guy that was really had big plays. They can stop him from having big plays. They'll be set, but I mean, the question is, who's going to do it? Who's going to line up against Jeremy Winston and Darnell Collins? Because both of those guys are 6'3", 6'4". Who's going to line up against them and shut them down? Can they shut them down? And I don't know if that's possible, given Villa Rica's personnel. Villa Rica's got to be red zone efficient. Obviously, they have the guys to do it. You got Tayshawn Thornton that plays tight end from here and there, and if they can, every time they get in the red zone, if they can convert, they'll be set. And then they got to create havoc on defense. Again, that defensive line has got some size, so if they can really collapse the pocket and shut down the quarterback in the run game, they will be fine. But again, the question is always, can they do it? Rome is rolling right now. Again, they're on a 3-game losing streak. They started out the year with 2 losses, and ever since then, they haven't looked back. They've won 3 games straight.
That's not normal.
Yeah, and they have several FBS caliber playmakers I've already mentioned. Nazir Jones, he's going to Coastal Carolina. Both Darnell Collins and Jeremy Winston going to Georgia Tech. And you got other guys I haven't mentioned that are obviously going to go D1 as well. So Villa Rica, they've competed well this season against similar sized programs, like Central, like the Troop Counties, those guys that are that, similar in their class respectively. But I don't think any of those teams have Rome's depth or explosiveness. Maybe Central, but I don't know. I still think Rome's a little bit better than Central. I think the matchup to watch for this game, though, is definitely going to be Rome's wide receivers versus Villa Rica's defensive backs. It's going to be the key. I think if Rome's wide receivers are dominating, Villa Rica is not going to really have too many answers. But if Villa Rica's defensive backs can step up and shut that down, it'll be an interesting game. And I think Villa Rica could have a chance to win it if they do that. But can they do it?
Nothing would please me more.
Yeah. But I do think the X factor here, that is my matchup to watch. But my X factor is going to be Rome's front 7. I think if they can stuff Villa Rica early, I think this could get out of hand quickly because Villa Rica, not going to be able to do too much against those defensive backs, I don't think. But Villa Rica's chance to upset, I think they got to win the time of possession. They got to force at least 2 turnovers, and they got to convert every red zone trip. Because I think if they do anything less than that, Rome's talent gap will take over. Again, this is all going to be about whose defense can step up more because these offenses can score. They've shown they can score, but whose defense can step up? I think Rome's can step up just a little bit more. That's why I have Rome winning 38-17, given Villa Rica their first region loss and Villa Rica falling below 500 for the second time this season. I don't want it to happen. I really hope Villa Rica goes in there and just destroys Rome, to be honest with you. But I don't know. Rome is a very good team. Again, I think they're just outside the top 5 in 5A, just slightly better than Central. And if they are slightly better than Central, we knew how Central went. I don't think Villa Rica is going to lose 45-7 like they did against Central, but I don't see them winning this game, especially on the road. I think it's going to be very difficult.
So next is Mount Zion Eagles.
Yep, this is my game of the week. This is the 21st meeting between the Mount Zion Eagles and the Trion Bulldogs. Trion does lead this series all-time 13-7. Trion did win it last year 44-0. And again, like I said, this Trion team from last year, if you know anything about them, they absolutely destroyed Mount Zion. Again, 44-0. Not the same Trion team, not even a little bit, because I think they destroyed Temple too, and they got destroyed by Temple. So it's just a little bit reversed this year. But Mount Zion, they haven't beaten Trion since 2020. 2020 was actually a good year for Mount Zion, so that's a plus. But again, it's been 5 years. And this is Mount Zion's senior night, though. And it's their senior night because this is the last home game for Mount Zion this regular season. The next 2 games for them, they go on the road to take on Bowden. They go on the road to take on Manchester, which is tough because those are probably 2 of the toughest teams in your region. Actually, I don't know. Trion's probably better than Manchester right now. This is the last home game, so this is their senior night. And, again, you don't want to lose on your senior night. That's one game you don't want to lose. But we'll start off with Trion. Trion, they're 3-3 on the year. First thing for them is going to be protect the football. Link Allen, this is kind of one of the stats that I found interesting. Their quarterback, Link Allen, he's thrown 9 touchdowns, but he's also thrown 9 interceptions, and in 6 games. So that's not great.
Making some bad decisions.
And he's a turnover machine. So, Keziah Aki, Dason Rolling, anybody on that Mount Zion defense ultimately has an opportunity to make a play, and that's concerning for Trion. So protect the football. Secondly, they got to lean on their playmakers in space. Wide receiver Bryson Roberts has 22 receptions for 445 yards, 7 touchdowns. LeBrian Ludy, he has 214 receiving yards and a touchdown. So those guys, they've been elite on one-on-one coverage. So Trion, I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to start going to those guys. So those guys got to make plays, especially Roberts. Bryson Roberts, he's definitely a mismatch against smaller defensive backs. So they got to get creative and find ways to free him up. Thirdly, they got to establish a complementary run game. They kind of have like a running back committee. They got Christian Henderson, Coleman Lee, Kurt Hambright. All those guys need to combine for at least over 100 rushing yards to prevent Mount Zion's pass rush from keying in just on the quarterback, because that's what they're going to do. You got to tackle in space and contain Mount Zion's backs. Mount Zion loves to run the ball, whether it's with their running backs or their quarterbacks. So if they can't tackle, it's going to be tough for Trion to do anything. And then win the special teams battle. Obviously, it's not really in their favor anyway because they're on the road against a Mount Zion team that I would say is better anyway. So it's tough already. You got to win the special teams battle, whether that's through field goals or punting or whatever. Mount Zion, they got to control the line of scrimmage. Mount Zion's 6-1, by the way. Congratulations to them. I mean, that's an incredible record. 6-1, only one loss. And even if they were to lose this game, only 6-2. That's not a terrible record. But they got to control the line of scrimmage. Obviously, I think Mount Zion's offensive line is bigger and better than Trion's, and Abram Morrow, Brady Denny, those type of guys. Those guys can definitely protect Knox Israel, and they're going to have to. I expect Mount Zion to establish physicality early with their running backs, and they can only do that with the offensive line's help. Secondly, they got to let Knox Israel manage the game. Obviously, Knox Israel does not need to throw like 25 times this game, but he's got to be efficient. He's got to get it out to Xavier Buckner, Caleb Sims, those type of guys, because Trion, if they're shutting down your run game, because Mount Zion's going to kind of hone in on that, you got to be able to go to those guys. And obviously Xavier Buckner, who I think is one of the best wide receivers in their class, obviously huge weapon to be able to use. Thirdly, you got to have some defensive discipline. Trion's spread is they got a lot of guys. They got a lot of guys who are playmakers, but so does Mount Zion, and especially defensively. Jaden Aki, Brody Heinzman, just to name a few. So even Keziah Aki, those guys got to stay over the top of these guys. And they, if they play like they've been playing, very fast, just constantly getting helmets on guys, they should be fine. But can they do it? Can Trion scheme and find ways to get out of it? I don't know. And then lastly, they got to create turnovers and finish drives. Obviously, Mount Zion, they have an opportunity here to create turnovers because of Link Allen, how bad of a decision maker he is, essentially. And then also they got to finish drives. You can't be leaving points on the board. You can't be in a red zone situation where, on the 23-yard line or something like that, and you just can't get it done. But I don't know. I don't think Mount Zion will be in that type of situation. So I don't know if that's something they need to worry about, but I do think they need to finish drives. Mount Zion, they have been trending upward. Obviously, they're 6-1. Their only loss coming against Pike County, which wasn't really too bad of a loss. Obviously, Trion got smoked by Temple, and Temple's been getting smoked here recently, so that's kind of iffy. I think the matchup here to watch is Trion's wide receivers against Mount Zion's defensive backs. Obviously, Trion has some good wide receivers, so I think if Mount Zion can shut them down, I think that'll be good for them. But the X factor here is going to be Mount Zion's front seven. I think if they can limit Link Allen's scrambling, because he is also a dual threat, which helps him because he's such a bad decision maker, and they bottle up that run game, I think Trion will struggle to maintain drives, which will help Mount Zion. I think Trion, they're going to need a +2 turnover margin, and they're going to need at least one explosive play of like 50-plus yards to stay in this game. So with that being said, I have Mount Zion potentially obtaining the 3rd seed here with a 27-13 win at home to advance to 7-1 on the year.
That's a good win.
Yep.
Now, they lost against a really good, pretty good Pirates team. I think that gives them the advantage because based on who Trion's played, I think that I see that going Mount Zion's way for sure. And then Heard County goes on the road to Temple.
Yes, this is the 20th meeting between the Braves and the Tigers. Heard County leads this series all time 16-3, so Temple historically has been getting whooped. Heard County did win this game last year 31-14. Now, both of these teams were very good last year, and they're pretty good this year as well. Temple has not beaten Heard County since 2020. Temple does come into this game 4-2. They're on a 2-game losing streak. They got whooped by Pepperell, got whooped by Bremen. Now they're back at home, though. Last time they were at home was that Pepperell game. That was their homecoming. They got whooped. Heard County's coming off of a victory against Harrelson County on the road, kind of a scrappy win for them. But this will be interesting. I think this could be a candidate. This was a candidate for game of the week, just because it's a region game and it's two rivals like that, and it's two teams that are pretty decent. Obviously, Heard County is top 10, so they're more than just pretty decent. But Temple, we'll start off with them. Their key to success, obviously, number one is going to be to win at the line of scrimmage early. Dom Nicolosi, Ryan Self, Junior Presley, those guys, they have great size and they're great offensive linemen. They're going up against a very good defensive line in Heard County. If you know anything about Heard County, they love sacks and they love tackles for loss. Max Lassiter, Jackson White, even Tatum White, and those are just to name a few guys. Those guys are constantly in the backfield, and Temple's going to have their hands full, so they got to win that line of scrimmage. Secondly, they got to control the clock with JoJo Jones and Jaden McDaniel. I don't know where these guys have been. Apparently, they fell off the face of the earth because they haven't been doing anything these past 2 weeks. So obviously, right now they gotta do something. They either got to put up points fast, or they got to have some methodical drives. But these methodical drives can't just be stall out drives. They gotta be able to get in the end zone. But that's tough for Temple because they're a run-heavy team going against a team in Heard County that loves to get in that backfield. So it'll be interesting. Thirdly, they got to limit explosives. Obviously, Heard County, they got a very good scrambling quarterback in Ethan Tisdale. They're going to have to try and shut down. They can't afford to just let him do whatever he wants. Quarterback play for Temple's got to be efficient, whether it's Jackson Gribben or Brody Dempsey. Those guys just got to get the ball to their receivers. Can't afford any mistakes against guys like Andrew Tinker or Bradford Hadley, because those guys will make them make mistakes. And then they got to have some special teams discipline. Heard County actually has a pretty good kicker in Matt Goog. I don't know if it's Matt Googe or Matt Goog. I don't know how to say his last name, but I apologize if I pronounce it wrong. But Temple, I think they have some pretty good returners, so if they can get that special teams game going, it'll be interesting. Heard County, they're obviously 5-0. Had some great wins this season, obviously one of them being over Bowden by 1 point. But number one for them is they got to let Ethan Tisdale set the tone. Ethan Tisdale, he has 8 rushing touchdowns, 9 passing touchdowns in just 5 games, which is crazy. So obviously, I don't know if Brody Buck-Cofield would be playing this game. So Zayden Moreland, Trip Kobo, those are going to be Ethan Tisdale's best friends when it comes to trying to make plays. They got to control the trenches with dominant front seven. Obviously, like I've already mentioned, Max Lassiter, 48 tackles, 19 tackles for loss in just 5 games. You also got Jackson White, Antonio Heath. Those guys got to collapse the pocket and shut down the run. If they do that, obviously Temple's not going to be able to do anything. Spread the ball in the passing game. Obviously, even if Brody Buck-Cofield is out, you got Zayden Moreland, you got Trip Kerbo, you got Max Lassiter at the tight end position, and that gives Tisdale some reliable targets. So Temple's secondary they probably will be attacked through the air. And I know they will. They got to keep the ground game rolling. Darius Coleman, 551 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. He's been very efficient. So a balanced attack will open play action and red zone efficiency. And they got to stay disciplined defensively. Obviously, their linebackers, Jack Langley, JT Hansen, River White, those guys, they got to make those correct reads and be able to stuff the run, because that's really where Temple shines, is running the ball. There is a physical mismatch. Obviously, Heard County's defensive front against Temple's offensive line. I think Temple's offensive line does have more size, but Heard County's defensive line has more speed, so that'll be interesting. There is a quarterback edge, obviously, Ethan Tisdale. He's completed 66.7% of his passes this year. He's better than both of the Temple quarterbacks, no offense to them, but he is. The kicker for Heard County, Matt Googe, he's 20 for 21 on PATs, 2 for 2 from field goals, so they do have somewhat of a reliable edge in the kicking game. if Brody Buck Cofield is inactive, I obviously expect Zayden Moreland and Trip Curvo to take on a heavier load. And I keep bringing it up because he has been out for the past few games. He only played he's been out for the past 2 games, I think. But, I mean, they played 2 games without him. So by now they probably do have it figured out whether he's playing or not. Hopefully he's back healthy. But, I had that written down just in case, but it's more of a, as the weeks go by, they're starting to figure out how to win without him anyway. So again, it's more of a, they're winning without him. So it's not like a, they can't win without him type of deal, but it still is a major blow to him and to the team not having Brody Buck Cofield. So hopefully he comes back this week. But I don't know the status on his injury. I think the X factor in this game is going to be Max Lassiter for Heard County. He plays both sides, defensive end, tight end. Obviously, he's the one that had like 48 tackles, 19 tackles for loss, something like that. Also plays tight end. His ability to wreck plays on defense and contribute as a red zone tight end, make him a two-way nightmare. That's why he's my X factor. I think if Max Lassiter is not too involved in the game, Temple might have a shot. But yeah, he's my X factor. But with that said, this score is going to be surprising to you. You might not like it. You're probably going to be surprised. You're probably going to be confused. I have Heard County winning this game 42-7. I don't think it's going to be close. After what I've seen these past 2 weeks, I'm not impressed with Temple. I don't trust Temple. I think they're going to have to do a lot in this game to kind of earn my trust back. But I think Heard County's too good of a team to be saying that they're going to have a close one. So give me Heard County again, 42-7, 35-point victory for them on the road.
Yeah, no, I didn't expect that. So Harrelson County goes on the road to Model, which we've been there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually like Model's environment. I like their stadium. I like the crowd. I mean, everything there is pretty decent. Their band
You even
was
complimented
good.
their hot dog.
Oh no, their concessions aren't good. But to each his own. But this is the 16th meeting between.
We're gonna have to do a special montage videos of just go back and get all the clips of your comments for concessions because that could be a highlight.
I mean, the people working concessions
they're
were
always
nice.
great.
They were good. They were nice.
We even have some that went to a class.
No, that was Jonesboro.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about Model's concessions worker were nice. They were good.
Yes.
But the food
very helpful.
Food was on the contrary. So I like their school though. Their school is very nice. I didn't expect it. But anyways, 16th meeting between the Blue Devils and the Rebels. Model leads this series 10-5. That's not right. It's the 10 plus 5. No, yeah, 15. Good Lord. You can tell math is not my specialty. Model won this last year 14-6. So pretty close last year despite Harrelson County's year that they had. Harrelson County has not beaten Model since 2021. I think that was their region winning season for Harrelson County, so it's been a minute. But Model's 1-4 right now. They're 1-4. One of those 4 losses came against Bremen. Number 1 for Model is going to be lean on the run game. They did that a lot against Bremen. They tried to run. Obviously, the run got shut down, and then they start trying to throw the ball. They couldn't get that done. So if they can get that run game going, which I don't know, against Harrelson County, it's going to be tough. I think Model could be successful, but I don't think they're going to be able to run against them. But Ridge Hardiker, Colin Watson, it's going to be the best chance Model has to get any sort of tempo going offensively running the ball. Secondly, they got to have some gap discipline on defense. Model's front seven's got to stay disciplined. They're playing against, Jax Brown and Kent Boyd, so it's going to be tough. But Harrelson County's offensive line, they're built big, they're physical. So Model's got to have some gap discipline. They got to win field position. They got to limit turnovers, and they got to have some big play opportunities. I think if Malachi Shelley, if he can get behind the secondary for a deep shot, they might have a chance. But again, when I saw them play Bremen, passing game really wasn't working, run game wasn't working, and I don't know. I think Harrelson County, I don't know if they're better than Bremen, but they're pretty close, and I don't like Model right now. I don't think they're a very good team. Harrelson County, they're 4-2. I think they got to control the line of scrimmage. Obviously, they have a big veteran offensive line, so that'll be pretty easy. You got to set the tone early and allow their running backs like Branson Williams and Jax Brown to really run the ball efficiently. They got to establish the run early and often. Obviously, when you got guys like Kent Boyd, it's going to be pretty easy to do that. They got to spread the field with Kent Boyd. Obviously, he's a mismatch wherever he is, whether it's in the outside, the inside, running the ball, throwing the ball, whatever. He's a mismatch, so got to get him the ball. Defensive pressure up front, the defensive line of Harrelson County, they got to be able to penetrate that model run, and I think they will. And they got to tackle cleanly in space. Obviously, if you can't tackle, it's going to be pretty hard for you to do anything. The trench battle, Harrelson has more size and experience on both lines, so that's going to be tough for model. And defensive identity, I expect Harrelson to really load the box and trust their defensive backs in man coverage, mainly because Model's going to have to be forced to beat them through the air, and I don't think they're going to be able to do it. I wasn't too impressed when what I saw against Bremen. That's really what I'm basing this off of. I think the X factor here is going to be Jax Brown. His two-way play as a power runner and a tackler kind of in the middle linebacker position, I think that could set the tone early. So that's my X factor. With that being said, I have Harrelson County advancing to 5-2 on the year with a 38-10 win on the road.
And then Central Lions is hosting Stars Mill Panthers.
Yeah, this is not going to be a good one. Going to be pretty boring, I think. This is the third meeting between the two. Now these two teams do have history. 2 years ago, when Central went 10-0 regular season, they went to the quarterfinals. They took on Stars Mill for the first time in history, and Stars Mill barely got away with a win, and that sent Stars Mill to the semifinals. Stars Mill did end up losing barely to Perry in the semifinals, but they had that. Then obviously last year they went on the road to Stars Mill, lost 38-35. They lost by 3 points, 38-35. Had Jonesboro not have beaten Stars Mill, Central wouldn't have won the region championship because they lost to Stars Mill. So it's kind of, I don't want to say this is a budding rivalry because they've only played twice, but this is they got some recent history, and it's been all Stars Mill. But they had a lot of seniors, and they had some guys transfer out. So this is not the same Stars Mill team. Obviously, they're 1-5, and their one win came against Mundy's Mill. And if you remember correctly, Central beat Mundy's Mill 56-0. Anybody can beat them. Stars Mill again won this last year 38-35. The first meeting, though, back in the playoffs in the quarterfinals, it was a top 10 matchup. So again, they've had some history. For Stars Mill, number one, they got to establish the ground game early. Their running back, Blake Turner, he's the heart of that offense. So for Stars Mill to try and somehow stay in this one, they got to move the chains with him. Secondly, they got to protect their sophomore quarterback, Braden Burkhalter, facing a fast and physical Central defense. They got to rely on that experienced offensive line of Spitznagel, Boyles, Mentor, guys like that, to give Burkhalter time to make throws and really manage the game, which as a sophomore against that Central team, it's going to be difficult. They got to have some defensive gap control against when they're taking on that running back duo of Jonas and Jace Walton. They got to create turnovers. J.R. Harris, he's only thrown one interception all season long, even against good teams like Jonesboro, who had 2 4-stars in their secondary, against Oxford, against teams like that. He's only thrown one interception. So it's going to be difficult, but they got to somehow try and create turnovers. And they got to limit big plays. Central, obviously, we saw that one play to Lanson Simmons, that deep pass that he caught, big momentum shifter, flipped field for them against Jonesboro. So they like plays like that. I don't know if they're necessarily going to, and they might be able to do it with the run in this game. They weren't able to do it in Jonesboro game with the run, but got to get some big plays. And I think if they can limit those big plays, Stars Mill will be successful. But again, don't know how realistic that is. But their defensive backs, Eric Lindstrom, Tanner Villa, those guys got to prevent deep shots to guys like Lanson Simmons and Jake Ivester. For the 6-0 Central Lions, obviously trying to stay perfect in this game and beat Stars Mill for the first time ever. They got to exploit matchup advantages in the passing game. Obviously, J.R. Harris, he's playing elite. He's 68 for 95, so that's 71.6% completion. For 1,100 yards, 16 touchdowns, only 1 interception. Stars Mill has not seen a quarterback this efficient yet. They probably won't for the rest of the season unless they go into the playoffs deep, which I don't know they will. So I expect Central to really open up with some quick hitters to these wideouts. They got to use balanced attack with the Walton duo. Obviously, Jonas Walton, 500 rushing yards, 200, almost 300 receiving yards. Jace Walton has just over 360 rushing yards. So they definitely know how to use those guys efficiently, and they're going to create some trouble for this Stars Mill team. they got to have some defensive disruption up front. Stars Mill's offense runs through the trenches, so Central's defensive line, guys like Tay Crowder, which I don't know, Tay Crowder wasn't playing against Jonesboro, so I don't know if he'll be healthy enough to play this game. Ben Hobbs, Walker Britt. Walker Britt was not even dressed out in pads or anything against Jonesboro, so I don't know if he'll be playing. Kamari Wilson, so they're a little banged up. Hopefully they're okay. If they're not, it's not a big deal because they're only playing Stars Mill, but those guys got to win early downs, 4th, 3rd, and longs, and really let Tyler Rochester and Jarrell Long roam. They got to dominate field position with special teams. Obviously, we saw Jake Davis, who had the 48-yard game-winning field goal. Obviously, he's kicking touchbacks, kicking field goals, doing whatever he needs to do. So they can definitely win the special teams game. And then they got to play with some tempo and confidence. Central's averaging 41.3 points a game. So obviously, if they set the tone early, it's going to be a blowout at home. The mismatch to watch, I think, is going to be Central's offense against Stars Mill's defense. I think, obviously, Central has the quarterback edge. Defensive depth, the Central tackling trio of Tyson Rochester, Jarrell Long, and Brock Roberts. I think those guys will contain the ground attack. I think, obviously, Central's on a roll after taking down a strong Jonesboro team, so confidence and chemistry are peaking. I think the X factor here is going to be Central's ability to score in all 3 phases. This could push this one into a running clock territory by the second half. That being said, I have Central getting the win 45-10 at home, and as they get ready for the end of region play.
Yeah, I would go just to watch Jake Davis hit another 48-yard field goal. I mean, that was pretty exciting. Carrollton goes on the road to Westlake. We'll be at this one, taking on the Westlake Lions. If you want to listen to it on radio, you can tune in to KISS 102.7.
Yep, this is the 7th meeting between the Carrollton Trojans and the Westlake Lions. Only one meeting ever between these two teams has been in a playoff. All the other ones have been region play. So this will be the 7th meeting, obviously. Carrollton has never lost to Westlake. They are 6-0. Carrollton beat them last year 63-27 at home. It's the first time they're going to Westlake since since Carrollton's 2022 state runner-up season. That was the freshman year of Juju Lewis. That was 3 years. Gosh, that was already 3 years ago. 3 years ago. That saw them get a 28-19 win on GPB Sports. That was televised because that was 2 very good teams going against each other.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be the case this time.
Do you think being there at their field is going to make a difference?
No.
Okay.
And I'll get to that. Carrollton's 6-0. Obviously, they've beaten Woodward Academy, Rome, Gainesville, A.H. Parker. So they're on a roll. They are coming off of their first bye week of the season, though, so we'll see how much that really affects. I doubt it does too much, but you never know. Key success for Carrollton is going to be start fast and set the tone. Carrollton is most dangerous when they jump out early. We did it against Woodward Academy. Very successful in that game. We got too many weapons to play from behind. If CJ Cipher and Cam Wood get rolling early, this could get out of hand quickly. An early 2-score lead forces Westlake to abandon balance and play catch-up. CJ Cipher, 984 passing yards, 11 passing touchdowns, 1 interception thrown. Cam Wood, 467 rushing yards, 12 rushing touchdowns. Again, all in just 6 games. We actually talked with Cam about his stats on that episode, so we got into that. But again, those guys can definitely help us start fast. In the Gainesville games, Cam Wood came out of the gate early, with a rushing touchdown. So we've seen it before. Got to dominate in the trenches. The offensive lines, Kai Helton, Quelly Fielder, Bo Ball, Chasen Sheffield, Mateo Wells, Mark Mitchell. Those guys are the foundation of Carrollton's success. So I think if they can win up front, Cam Wood will control tempo, and Cipher can pick apart coverages with time to throw. On the defensive side of the ball is Kai Helton, D.A. Logan, guys like that. They got to collapse the pocket, and they got to make the young quarterback, Cannon Robinson, uncomfortable. Thirdly, they got to spread the ball to all the playmakers. This offense has depth everywhere. Obviously, you got Ryan Mosley, who has just under 500 yards receiving. Peyton Zachary, who has just under 450 yards receiving. Got Karis Miller, Rontre Welch, even Nick Archer. And all these guys are dangerous in space. So mixing deep shots with quick game RPOs to stretch Westlake horizontally and vertically, that'll work. So Cypher's poised for a freshman, allows for tempo shifts and pre-read snaps as well. Fourthly, defensive pressure on young quarterback. Westlake, they have a sophomore quarterback, Cannon Robinson II. He's been efficient. He's thrown for 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns. He's thrown 3 interceptions, but he has not faced a front seven like this front seven. I think if C.J. Gamble, Caden Spratling, Zakai Helton, if those guys can get home, They will force rush throws and turnovers. We've seen that all year long, and I don't see why we wouldn't see it in this game. And then lastly, special teams and field position. Julian Vargas, he's a game changer. 37 touchbacks in 40 kickoffs. He's 5 for 6 for field goals. It's a massive advantage against a team that's going to be relying on field position like Westlake. So not giving them short fields, giving them like 80 yards to go every drive is going to be very important for this Carrollton team. For Westlake, number one, they got to keep the offense on schedule. Westlake cannot afford to be behind. Quarterback Cannon Robinson II throws off-rhythm throws and short yardage gains. And he thrives off of them. Early down success with Jackson Ragland and Jacob Jackson, the 2 running backs, is crucial to avoid Carrollton's exotic blitz looks. Secondly, they got to create explosives in the passing game. Carrollton's defense is stout, but explosive plays are the equalizer. Receivers like Elias Gandy, Roscoe Hayes, Dion Thomas, they have the length and speed to stretch the field. Roscoe Hayes is 6'6", 195 pounds. Dion Thomas is 6'4", 205 pounds. So those guys are pretty big. Westlake's going to need at least 2 40-plus yard completions or busted coverages to stay in this game. Thirdly, they got to pressure the freshman quarterback. Cypher is mature beyond his age, but he is still a freshman. We saw that in the Gainesville game. He threw a pretty bad pick 6, which was his only interception of the year, but still, we've seen that at times he can be vulnerable. So Westlake, they got to disguise coverages and send Elijah Cox, Keon Ringfield, Tyler McGriff, guys like that on the defensive line. They got to force them to force Cypher to force quick decisions. Forcing 3rd and longs and disguising looks post-snap also could lead to takeaways. They got to win the turnover battle. Obviously, against an explosive team like Carrollton, you cannot trade scores. You got to have some extra possessions. Sincere Berry, the transfer from Mays. You got Kamani Estrada, Royal Walker. All those guys have 1 to 2 interceptions this season. Sincere Berry is actually a 3-star. He's going to South Florida. So those guys got to be opportunistic. And a defensive touchdown or short field setup is key. And then they got to stay disciplined and limit penalties. Both of these teams got to limit penalties, especially Carrollton. We've seen Carrollton. They've always struggled with penalties. So both of these teams are going to need to limit penalties if they want to stay in this game. Because if Westlake has too many penalties, Carrollton's going to capitalize. And if Carrollton has too many penalties, I don't know if Westlake will capitalize, but Carrollton will definitely be shooting themselves in the foot. And we've seen it too many times. Carrollton's X factor is going to be Cam Wood, the running back. His consistency and nose for the end zone give the Trojans offensive balance. If he hits 100-plus yards and 2 scores, Carrollton will roll. Westlake's X factor is going to be their 3-star senior athlete, Dion Thomas. He's committed to UConn. He's a true two-way weapon. He must produce splash plays on offense and create havoc defensively. He has 4 tackles for loss and 3 forced fumbles this season. So if he can flip a possession, Westlake could hang around. This game has the feel, though, of a measuring stick matchup for Westlake and just a business trip for Carrollton. Does that feel that way to you?
Mm-hmm. It is.
So I think the Trojans, they do have a rare mix of youthful explosiveness and veteran leadership, obviously. And they're simply just more balanced and deeper on both lines. Westlake will have moments, especially early, if their athletes create mismatches. But I think Carrollton's efficiency, their special teams edge, their ability to finish drives, I think that'll be too much over 4 quarters. I expect Carrollton to pull away in the second half behind Cam Woods running and then CJ Cypher's command. And we could even see Mason Holtzclaw command. I don't know. But
what about Jay Hagan?
Yeah, Jay Hagan, he's a beast. But
we don't talk enough about him.
Well,
Cam did. Listen to the show from Monday.
Well, I do think he's going to be a big part of this defense. But statistics-wise, obviously, because he didn't play most of the season so far, not a lot to talk about statistics-wise. But again, Jay Hagan, definitely one of those guys in the secondary that's going to be key on shutting down everything, really. But with that being said, I have Carrollton advancing to 7-0 on the year, getting a pretty easy win on the road, 45-17.
Wow. Well, it'll be worth the trip. I look forward to it. Always do. And like we did say, though, Cam had some really good things to say about Jay Hagan, one of his good friends. And I'll let him speak for himself. Check that out. It's pretty cool. That's on our Monday show, special edition. That was our special guest interview. And then, of course, we have, I think this could be maybe a pretty good game, but Pepperrell Dragons, they're welcomed by Bremen Blue Devils at home.
Yeah, I agree. I think Pepperrell, because of how strong, compared to other teams, how strong their schedule has been and how close they've had in some of these losses, obviously smoked Temple, but both of these teams smoked Temple. This is the 9th meeting between the Dragons and the Blue Devils. Pepperrell does lead this series 4-3-1, so they've won it 4 times. They've lost 3 times. They've tied only once. Bremen did win this last year only by 10 points, 45-35. Pepperell, they haven't beaten Bremen since 2020, which seems to be kind of a trend here. Teams don't beat other teams for 5 years. I don't know what that's about. But for Bremen, they're 4-2, coming off of a blowout win at home against Temple. They got to control the line of scrimmage for one. Obviously, you got Bryson Jenkins, that big offensive lineman they have. So, Tavares Bexley, who kind of carved up Model, who's kind of doing whatever he wants. If those guys can do whatever they want and give quarterback time to throw, it'll be an advantage for them. Got to have a next man up mentality at receiver. Obviously, Justin Faulkner is out probably still. So, Jay-Sean Jones, amongst other guys, he got to step up, which he has been. Got to feed off defense and special teams. Obviously, some of those guys that we've mentioned defensively, and obviously Carter Allen amongst those guys, they gotta get it done. And if they play like they did against Temple, they should be pretty successful. They got to contain Moss Tant. Moss Tant, he was the quarterback at Rome last year. Carrollton played against him. He threw 2 interceptions. So we're pretty familiar with him, but he's the senior quarterback for Pepperell. Obviously, he's experienced. He's capable of hitting timely throws. So Bremen's got to shut him down. I don't know if he's a runner. I don't remember him running too much against Carrollton. Obviously, I don't really remember too well. It was a year ago. But they got to shut him down, and it'll be hard. He's pretty big. He's 6'3", 195. He's a big old boy. So we'll see if they can shut him down. And they just can't let Pepperell hang around. Bremen is more of a complete team than Pepperell. So I think if they can build an early lead and they stay focused, they will win this game. For Pepperell, they're 3-3. Obviously, 3 of those losses were pretty close losses. Obviously, one of those 3 wins was a blowout win on the road against Temple. Number one, they got to let Moss Tant command the offense. Obviously, if they can get 200-plus passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, they're going to win this game, no doubt. They got to lean on the run game early. Maddox, Garcia, Dwight Chapman, those guys, they're running behind Turner Crawford and S.J. Sapp on that offensive line. So if they can get it going, and Bremen has no answer for them, it's going to be a long night for Bremen. They got to win the edge battle on defense. Bremen's line is pretty big. So if they can get off the edge and really stop that run or pressure the quarterback, it's going to be, again, tough for Bremen to do anything. They got to get Sam Ross involved everywhere. Ross is a true athlete. He needs touches on offense, defense, special teams, whatever. He's kind of their go-to. He's their go-to guy, and he's going to need to be able to shut down Jay-Sean Jones, and then on offense be able to not get shut down by Jay-Sean Jones. And then they got to limit mistakes and extend drives. Pepperell, they just can't afford turnovers or drive-killing penalties. Really, neither of these teams will because it's too close of a game. So really just limit that. Bremen's X factor is going to be Carter Allen, their kicker. Obviously, he's a pretty important guy when it comes down to it. Pepperell's X factor is going to be their athlete Sam Ross. Again, his versatility could spark big plays for Pepperell, and he can do it when they need it the most. So I expect him to line up all over the field. I think Bremen's home field edge, though, their defensive front, their balanced offense, I think this should give them control of the matchup. I think Pepperell will bring intensity and effort, but Bremen's ability to sustain drives, flip field position, and close in the red zone really separates them. So I think if Bremen scores early and forces Pepperell to play from behind, the Dragons' offense could become one-dimensional and a dangerous spot that is against the defense with as many tacklers as Bremen. So with that being said, I have Bremen getting a pretty close win at home against Pepperell, 31-20.
Ooh, I like that. And in Pepperell Dragons, they gave somebody else in the area a loss. Was that Temple or was that Harrelson County?
No, Pepperell gave Temple a loss.
Yes, okay.
I don't think Pepperell's played Harrelson County yet.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I remember that now. And then we end with Bowden Red Devils. They're going to pack their bags. They're going on the road to take on the second Blue Devils team of this year, and that's Manchester Blue Devils.
Yeah, and historically, the past few years, this has been a really good matchup. I disagree this time. I don't think it will be. Bowden, unfortunately, did not get to play their game last week. I mean, they got a quarter in, and then they had to stop. So that's going to affect them a little bit. I think they definitely probably would have rather had played last game. But, Booker T. Washington didn't want to finish that game, so got forfeited, and they ended up getting a win because of it. But this is the 16th meeting between these two. Manchester does lead the series all-time, 9-6. Manchester did win it last year, 28-20, and because Manchester won it last year, it stopped Bowden from winning the region championship. Obviously, Bowden didn't care because they ended up going and winning the state championship. But the last 4 matchups between these two teams have been top 10 matchups. Both of these teams have been ranked inside the top 10 the last 4 times they played each other. They split those 4 meetings 2-2. So it's been a very competitive kind of rivalry between these two teams because both of these teams have been state championship contenders for the past couple years. A couple years ago, they met up in the state championship. Bowden got the best of them. They met up last year in region play, and so I mean it's been a pretty budding rivalry. But this year, I just don't see it going the same. I don't think it'll be close at all. And here's why. I mean, Bowden's 4-2. I think they got to win in the trenches on both sides of the line, and we saw firsthand how big some of these guys are on the offensive and defensive line. So first for Bowden, they got to win in the trenches. We saw firsthand how big some of those guys were. They were some big old boys, and so that's going to be number 1. Number 2, they got to let Hopkins be dynamic. Hopkins, he's pretty quiet. I don't know if quietly is the word, but I would say pretty quietly having a dual threat all-state caliber season. 725 passing yards, 11 passing touchdowns to only 1 interception, 536 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns. So his ability to do it on the ground and through the air, again, all-state caliber. Caden Prothro, Keelan Prothro, Berkeley Perkins, guys like that, they will keep the secondary guessing. They're going to need to, and that is Hopkins' go-to guys. They got to feed Caden Prothro, the 5-star. So far, he doesn't even he has just under 400 yards receiving, 7 receiving touchdowns on just 20 catches. He's a matchup nightmare, though, 6'6". We, again, saw how huge he was.
Yeah, when you're on the sidelines with him, that makes a difference.
Yeah, he's a big old boy. And so,
very athletic.
Yeah. And so, obviously, a big mismatch there. And they got to have some gap discipline and containment on defense. Manchester does have a running back duo of Darius Favors, who's pretty good. DeVoris Favors, which I don't know too much about, but I'm assuming they're related. The Bowden's linebackers, Lucky Bailey, Paul Wilson. The defensive line, Marcus Harper, Jonah Wilson. Those guys got to contain them and tackle in space. And they got to stay sound in the secondary. Manchester's quarterback, Dre McGee, and their wide receivers, Justice Kimson, Bronte Jones. Those guys can hit explosive plays. So KK Patterson, Micah Patterson, Keelan Prothro, they got to communicate well. They got to limit broken coverages. They got to force Manchester to sustain drives and not just get quick strikes. For Manchester, they got to have the ball in Jaden Terry's hands. Jaden Terry, he's a 4-star defensive back. He's committed to Georgia Tech. Go Jackets. But he is considered an athlete at the same time. He's a playmaker. He's playing both ways. Whether he's doing that or whether he's returning kicks, they're going to need to get him the ball. Secondly, they got to control tempo, limit possessions. Bowden thrives when games turn into track meets, so Manchester should focus on long, sustained drives with the favors to keep Hopkins and Bowden's offense off the field. They got to pressure Hopkins and not let him get comfortable. Obviously, he's going to be running all over him, and if he's hitting everything and just kind of doing whatever he wants, it's going to be a rough night for Manchester. And they got to win special teams and turnover battle, obviously, and they got to avoid getting outmatched physically, which I don't know. Some of those boys on Bowden are just huge, and they're so athletic. For Bowden, the X factor is going to be Connor Daniel. His versatility, whether he's at the backup quarterback position, the running back position, the defensive back position, the wide receiver position, doesn't matter. Against Booker T. Washington, we were at the game, scored on the first drive, first play of the game, rushing touchdown, all the way to the house. I mean, it's just incredible. So he's their X factor for me this game. I think he allows them to stay creative. He's a spark plug who can change the game with a big run or a defensive score. For Manchester, obviously, it's going to be their 4-star defensive back, Jaden Terry. He's their X factor. He's a power 4 level athlete. Obviously, he's committed to Georgia Tech. He can flip momentum in a single play. So Bowden, they got to avoid kicking to him. They got to avoid isolating him one-on-one, which I think will be interesting. Jaden Terry, the 4-star defensive back, going one-on-one with the 5-star Caden Prothro. If that is the matchup, I think that would be interesting to see. It's unfortunate I can't go see it. I'd rather go to the Carrollton game, though. But it'll be interesting to find out how that goes. But Bowden's depth, discipline, their balanced offense, I think they'll be too much for Manchester to handle over 4 quarters. The Red Devils' defense has playmakers at every level, and their offense can strike both through the air and on the ground. Manchester has the athleticism to hang early, but unless they win, the turnover battle will hit multiple big plays. Bowden should gradually pull away. So this one, again, I don't think it's going to be close. Give me Bowden 41-17 on the road.
Yeah, I think so. Well, yeah, and hopefully I haven't looked at the weather. Hopefully we've got good weather for this weekend. That was a surprise last weekend and ruined a lot of people's.
It almost rained at the Central game.
Yeah. Well, as always, follow and share us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube, and we're at WestGA Gridiron on all those platforms. Listen on Apple and Spotify, and of course, watch us on YouTube channel. And we always ask you to comment and share, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. But Mason, I hope this has been another fun episode for you. I love hearing all your predictions and previews. So in depth, so knowledgeable. And there's some things I always learn, I think, too, about some of their positions or their strategy that I maybe haven't considered. And definitely the implications are always important when you're in region play. So
Yes.
any final thoughts, comments, or opinions?
No, but I will say this. I mean, it's
No.
hard, but it's hard to believe. Like, for instance, Mount Zion. It's hard to believe that this is their last home game. Like, that's how far into the season we are. Like, this is their last home game of the regular season. They don't have any more after this. Like, it's hard to believe we're getting to that point. It is starting to feel like real fall, though. I know we actually are in the season of fall, but it is starting to feel that way too. You know, kind of colder weather. It's feeling great outside, but I hope all these teams win on Friday. Hope they do well. Obviously, Heard County Temple. I can't say who I want to win that game because I don't really care either way. I hope they both do great. I hope it's a really competitive game. Obviously, go Trojans. I hope everyone does well, and I can't wait for playoffs, to be honest with you.
Mason, we're a month and a half away from playoffs. Can you believe it?
I cannot believe that, no.
Well, welcome to October, everybody, where the leaves start changing and fall festivals start happening. But, of course, we still have football on Friday nights, and there's nothing like football Friday nights in West Georgia. So, everybody have a great week until we see you on Monday's show. Good luck to everybody on Friday.